Hello Judeans, Gentiles and kindred people. Today I want to take a look at Ham. So let's have another look at our European history and what the kingdom of Christ was all about. But we have to go all the way back to gain understanding. So they created this new narrative that Noah had 3 sons of 3 different races. Or the out of Africa theory that Adam was the man on the left and from Adam came the other 2 groups and all other subgroups. But this view creates nothing but confusion, unclarity and what the Bible was truly about. And in the end, no one will benefit from this view. So let's take a look at the son of Noah called Ham. And Ham had children. One of them was Kush. Now the assumption is made that when you go to Africa and you look how the people in those regions look now, that they have always been that way. Therefore the people of Kush must have been black. And this narrative is spread all over the internet. That's why it's very hard to do your research by just pressing in something on Google or YouTube and then expect to have the right information. For example, I pressed in Kush and then this is what you get. This is all you get. So let's take a look at what the Bible says about the sons of Ham. And the sons of Ham, Kush and Mizraim, Put and Canaan. So the oldest son of Ham, Kush, lived in this area south of Egypt and even parts of Arabia. And later this part south of Egypt was renamed Ethiopia by the Greeks. So this is a modern day map of the Sudan. But the Sudan used to be east of Ethiopia. And there were indeed in the south, like you can see here, South Sudan, black African people living there. And you can even see how close it is to the Congo, Uganda, Kenya, right? So this is what the people of the South Sudan look like. South Sudanese, Congolese, people from Uganda, people from Kenya. So indeed there were black people called Nubians living also south and east of Egypt and Ethiopia. So there was a clear distinction between the Nubians and the Ethiopians. Even though in the south there were indeed black people living here, but this land Kush, the son of Ham, was named Ethiopia by the Greeks. What does Ethiopia mean? It comes from the Greek words Ethiops, which means sunburned face. Ops means face and athe means sunburned. Sunburned. Of course, black people are not black because they are sunburned. Also, it comes from the word ahethos, which means shining, burned, red, right, becoming brown, or ahithops, which is called flashing, sparkling. It's clear skies, fair skies. So these people of Ethiopia, the Greeks called them the sunburned faces. Now who can get sunburned faces, right? Again, black people, they are not sunburned. They are black because of their genes. And when you look at all the Greek historici, they mentioned these people. They talked about the Ethiopians. And there were indeed 2 groups, right? There was also a group in the south. And Herodotus called the black African people, they called them black and with woolly hair, right? And the other Ethiopians, he called them the fairest and tallest of all men. Here we even have a map that speaks about the Anglo-Egyptians. And when you really dig into historicity, the Greek literature, books like Homer, what Herodotus said, what all these Greeks said, right? Even the book of Jasher, we see there were wars against the Greeks, right? The Macedonians, which were an Anglo-Saxon Scythian people, and even the people of Ethiopia, the kings, these kings described as the kings of Africa in Jasher, they even went all the way up to Greek to war with them. And even there are descriptions how they are even related to each other. And Afrocentrists and this whole Black Hebrew Israelite movement, they know these stories. Therefore, they have no choice but to say, well, the Greeks and the Macedonians must have been sub-Saharan African, or even the Scythians, the Indo-Europeans, they were Africans. Of course, this is all because of a misconception about who the Ethiopians truly were. This is why Alexander the Great, the Greek Empire, stretched all the way to Egypt and Ethiopia, because these were the same families, right? In my other video I even showed you that King Alexander even went all the way to India, because there the Scythians, the Indo-European people lived. These were one group of family. Right? All the sons of Noah lived in these areas. But over time, amalgamation with the other peoples happened and empires fell. This whole region became smaller and smaller. But we see that even the Roman Empire stretched North Africa, Egypt, and also the Romans were not concerned with the sub-Saharan African continent. But over time, the Caucasian people from Ham and Shem, they became amalgamated, and the white people became less and less in these areas, and basically the story moved more and more northward into Europe. So the idea that the modern day Ethiopians are those people from the Old Testament is just not true, because there is no one kind of Ethiopian nowadays. It became so amalgamated that you have many kinds of Ethiopians. In the south they are more darker, in the north they are lighter, but they all have a mixed DNA of sub-Saharan African, North African, Arab, because we know in the 7th century the Arabs invaded Ethiopia and turned it into an Islamic state.
The example populations for your dad are Bedouins.
What is that?
Bedouins, desert people, like people that live in the desert, like Arab Bedouins.
Okay.
Bedouins, Ashkenazi Jews, and Algerians.
What the heck? Oh my god. What's going on here? I don't understand. Maybe they sent wrong one.
Wait. Okay.
That's not mine.
Are you ready for your DNA?
Alright, go ahead.
Okay, so you are...
Oh my god, what?
Ready?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm waiting for
63.6%.
63?
63.6% East African.
I knew it. Almost.
Almost what?
I was too close.
Half.
I did the 75, right?
Yeah.
East African, 63.
Mine was 54%. Okay. You are less than 0.1% West African.
Oh my god.
You don't have no West African in you. I had 6% West African, so I'm more West African than you. And then you got 0.8% broadly sub-Saharan African, so they didn't know, just somewhere sub-Saharan.
Alright, okay.
And then you are 32.9%
Okay.
Middle Eastern and North African. And of that, you got 32.7% North African.
Wow.
So this whole region became so amalgamated and unrecognizable to what it was in biblical times. We even still sometimes feel remnants of the white people who used to live there, because we find Ethiopians even with blue eyes. And biblical history tells us that Kush was even under the empire of Egypt, and Egypt made Moses the prince over Kush. So when the Bible speaks about Kush, it is not talking about sub-Saharan African people. Kush refers to the branch that came out of Ham. And the Egyptians came from a different branch of Ham through Mizraim. So the Egyptians were the people that came from Mizraim, and the people of Kush were the people who came from Ham's son Kush. But they were related to each other. These were kinsmen. That's why it was so easy for Moses to be adopted when they found him in a basket, so he could grow up in the family of the Pharaoh, because they could not tell the difference. Of course, if Moses would have been a black baby, how would the Egyptians have thought that he was one of them? Right? It doesn't make any sense. Except that they say, well, therefore the Egyptians must have been black, right? And therefore the Israelites had to have been black. And therefore the Greeks have to have been black. Therefore the Scythians had to be black, right? But it all does not make sense if you don't understand history. So were there no black people or brown people in Egypt at all? No, of course they were there. And over time Egypt became multicultural. But all the royalty, all the dynasties were created by the sons of Ham through Mizraim. These were white Hamite people. Take a look at what Robert Sefer says about this.
This is the mummified remains of Yuya, an Egyptian nobleman from 1400 BC, the father of Queen Tai, who was the wife of Pharaoh Amenhotep III. Yuya's hair, prominent nose, and Caucasian facial structure have all been well preserved by the embalming process. This is the mummified remains of his wife Tuya, the grandmother of Pharaoh Akhenaten, great-grandmother of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, and the mother of Queen Tai. This is the mummified remains of Tai, one of the most illustrious queens of ancient Egypt, the great royal wife of the Egyptian pharaoh Amenhotep III, the mother of Pharaoh Akhenaten and grandmother of King Tut. This is the mummified remains of Tutmosis IV, son of Amenhotep II. This is the mummy of Ramesses the Great, the third pharaoh of the 19th dynasty of Egypt, regarded as one of the most celebrated and most powerful pharaohs of the New Kingdom, itself arguably the most powerful period of ancient Egypt. The population density map on the right helps to illustrate the vast geographic separation between people living to the north and south of the Sahara Desert, a natural barrier between demographics such as the ancient Egyptians or North African Berbers and the sub-Saharan tribal populations. This ethnic division is also apparent with the Egyptian artifact on the left from the St. Louis Art Museum that says, quote, "This man is bound with the floral ropes that represent the lotus of Upper Egypt and the papyrus of Lower Egypt. The ropes indicate he is a prisoner of the Egyptian pharaoh. His hairstyle, rows of tightly curled locks of hair, the large hoop earring, and high cheekbones are characteristic of the way Egyptian artists portrayed Nubians who lived to the south. Artists employed stereotypical and often unflattering ways to distinguish foreigners from Egyptians."
But over time, even when Egypt already became weaker through amalgamation, the ruler class was being taken over by Alexander the Great, and he installed one of his Macedonian queens called Cleopatra. Now, under the Alexandrian rule, there was also built the Alexandria Library, which contained hundreds of thousands of documents. But they say when the Romans took over, it caught fire and everything was destroyed. Or was it? Or can we find many of the documents about our true history within the cellars of Rome nowadays? Because the Vatican has underground cellars which I believe contain many of the documents from Alexandria. But they expose our history and they don't want it, because Rome was also under the influence from Babylon, right, from the Edomite dynasty, and they want to hide our true history. So the Roman Empire became Christian, but it became a new form of Christian. It became Catholic Christian. That means universal Christian, meaning that the empire wanted everyone within the Roman Empire. It doesn't matter who you are, everyone has to submit to the Roman Catholic Church. So everyone within the borders of the Roman Empire became a Catholic Christian. That's why we, for example, find old churches from the 4th century in Ethiopia, which were founded by the Romans. So when we look in Ethiopia at these churches and these mural paintings, we see that these people were white. But you can also see there was already amalgamation going on. But the Roman Empire wanted everyone to become a Christian according to this Roman universal church, that everyone within the borders would become a Christian. And the Romans brought this new Christianity all through the Roman Empire. So in my other video I showed you how the Royal Scythian society civilization fell after there was a mixing of other peoples. Even North India that fell. But North India was a Scythian Indo-European civilization that fell. It became a third world nation. Same thing I show you now. Egypt and Ethiopia also got mixed up, became multicultural, and these once great empires fell, never to rise again, and they are now considered third world countries. And the same thing is happening to us now. In the Millennium Kingdom of Christ, there was no multicultural, no multi-gods. It was the kingdom of Christ. But now that we're in a short season where Satan is loosed, it starts to happen again, because we don't want to accept the true history. We believe liars who feed you this on YouTube and Google and your Marxist professors in the school. They don't want you to know this, but Satan knows. Satan knows how to bring down the kingdom of Christ, right? And that is exactly what Satan is doing right now. Guys, Christianity disappearing. We as Adamic people are disappearing. The Adamic people have been narrowed down and narrowed down. It stretched all the way to China. It was brought back to India. King Alexander tried to save it, couldn't do it. The Roman Empire became smaller, and eventually it became only the people of Europe. But in the millennium reign of Christ, also the European people built new empires, new kingdoms, right? In North America, South Africa, Australia. But now, in a short season where Satan is loose, also these kingdoms are falling again, guys. We need salvation because we are the last remnant of Adam.